Every single player wants their moment. If a player is sitting down at your table, they don't want just a cool combat scene or a lucky nat 20, but they want a personal arc. They want a moment where they can grow, where they can fall, recover, walk away changed. Now, let me know in the comments if you disagree, but I feel like that's what turns a casual player into a deeply invested storyteller. It's those moments where they can feel like they are the most important person at the table for that time. And ultimately, I think that means it's where they can feel like they are a hero. So today, I want to talk about how to build a story arc for each individual player without having to railroad them or have them stick to a specific plot or script, and more importantly, doing so without burning yourself out. So let's jump into it. Now, the first thing that I ask myself, and again, ultimately this list is just the things of what I think helps me. Hopefully it helps you, but the first thing I like to do is to figure out what they want. Every single character that sits down at my table should have a goal. It's one of the things that I give them as homework. I want them to know what it is that their character wants. And that can be a bunch of things. It could be revenge, it could be redemption, it could be power, validation for a mistake or for being framed for something, right? Even if it's not fully written into their backstory, you can usually figure out what it is from how they play. So you can ask yourself, what is this character chasing? Is it the treasure? Do they like hitting things? And don't just stop at they want to kill their old mentor if that's what you find out. Ask why. Is it closure? Is it justice, right? Because that tells you a lot about their morality. Is it just a way to prove that they're strong enough now? Because then you have a completely different character than somebody that wants to see somebody brought in for justice, right? Once you know what they want, then you've got a thread to pull on. So I highly recommend that you figure that out before your campaign starts. And it's totally okay if you're trying to figure this out right now. Say you're a first-time DM and you are just now realizing that, like, man, I really should be looking into my characters more. Well, that's okay. Just sit down and with your players. Sometimes I like to pull my players in every once in a while for a one-on-one where we do some backstory stuff. Or maybe if they have some downtime in your campaign, like let's say you've given them a month, figure out what you want to do for the next month. Sit down with them individually, role play with them, and start asking them those questions, or start guiding that little one-on-one session, that duet with them in a way that starts to ask those questions natively, right? Just so you can figure out what is it that they're chasing and why are they chasing it. Now, the second thing that I like to do is to find a source of conflict or tension now that I know that, because conflict is a source of a good story. I would say it's the source of a good story. So if you can find a person or a place or an item that causes your player tension, well, then you have something that you can work with and start to weave into the story, and you'd be surprised at how amazing a player will react when they realize that, like, this little thread or this little clue that's being dropped that nobody else is reacting to is specifically for them. They're going to feel like you did something special for them. And they might get excited and maybe keep it a secret for themselves because now they have something that, like, oh, nobody else knows this except me, and it gets them excited. So for example, a court mage that was responsible for the death of a character's family, and the player is that family, right? Like that character, that family got taken away or killed or what have you. And now they're at the royal banquet and they see that mage. There could be a town that is the home of, your party's paladin, and they were the only one that survived a plague, and now you're going through that town. You want to just start finding not necessarily ways for you to challenge them, but places where you can start to pull on that conflict, to make them think about their own individual flaws. So I guess that's a better way to think about it, is to think about their flaws, because a flaw can make a character arc interesting. So if they're reckless or they don't trust anyone, well, they're going to react differently in different situations. And what you can do as a DM is put those sources of conflict in front of them, because sure, maybe Joe at the table would react his way, because Joe will probably not want to go up to somebody in real life and punch someone. The average person tends to be non-confrontational, but the paladin may feel differently. And so now you have a source of tension because the player wants one thing, player character wants another, and you're the one that's kind of putting these things, making them think not as Joe, but thinking as the paladin. So when you can get them to step into these characters' heads and try to process things in a place of tension or conflict, you get some really interesting role-playing moments. So figure out what trips them up. And I'm not talking about mechanically again. I mean this as a character, as a person. What trips them up as the character? Because that gives you tension, and a character that's chasing something desperately while they're being held back by their own flaws, that's like storytelling gold. Now, once you you know what they want and you have a source of tension, then you can set the bait. And I like to kind of consider it a little bit of a trap, making them go through the emotional aspect of growing as a character. I like to set that as like a little bit of a trap, because if you know what they want and what they're bad at, you can start thinking about their backstory and figure out where there's some threads that you can use, like we talked about, to naturally guide the story in a direction that might come across that thread. So I don't mean force it, let it simmer. Just put it there, let it simmer a little bit. So you can drop in an NPC from their past. You can put in a symbol. You can give them a vision, and a letter arrives, something small that whispers to them that you're getting closer. It can be 10 sessions from now. It can be 100 sessions from now. Find a moment and let them take the bait. Now, really quick, I do want to just take a moment to say thank you to today's sponsor, Describe. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I am constantly tripping over my own words. So how do you do that without spending your entire session prepping notes and prepping things for you to read? How do you bring your world to life? Well, that's where Describe comes in. Now, to really help you understand that, here's a minor illusion to perfectly explain it. Wait, it's not working. Why isn't it? Okay, let's just use Describe. Describe is a massive, professionally written library of descriptions, NPCs, locations, monsters, spells, magic items, and entire scenes ready to drop right into your campaign. And what's cool is that you can search by keyword or filter by vibe, such as dark, romantic, or cursed, and it even integrates with your VTT, so you're not having to scramble mid-session. And what I love the most is that you can add your own notes, you can pair entries with music and maps and ambience and sound effects all in one place. So if you want to try it for yourself, check out Describe and use my code FANTASYFORGE at checkout. Yeah, that's more like it. After they have taken the bait, that brings us to number 4, which is you spring that challenge, a moral dilemma that tests them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. It doesn't necessarily need to be some big bad boss or anything like that. It's just a choice. You want to give them a moral dilemma, something that feels akin to like a betrayal to them, right? Like they might be betraying themselves. They might have to betray the party, something that makes them question who they are right now and how far they are willing to go to get that thing. Now, the best arcs test that exact flaw that you identified earlier. This might mean a mage going to a court and then finding at the court that the person responsible for their family's death is right there at the other end of the table. So now you as the storyteller get to see, do they lash out? Do they run? Do they finally face that thing that they've been avoiding? Let them wrestle with it. You don't need to have a moment of clarity or closure for them. Let them wrestle with it. Let the party see that they are wrestling with it, because that air of who knows what is going to happen now is part of the excitement, especially when it's a secret, when nobody else knows except that player or the DM. That's when it gets really exciting, because you can start to feel the tension. And now classic D&D, that party that you've spent, or that plan that you've spent hours planning out with your party, might go completely wrong, and it's all because of a role-playing element that got thrown in. Now, the 5th thing that I like to do is give them a failure. And I know that this is supposed to be about challenging them and not necessarily about forcing them into anything. I want to be very clear. I don't think you should auto-fail somebody. I think what that would mean, if they succeed, I think you just challenge them more next time and challenge them more. But the idea being that failure is such an amazing moment for the party to get together and roleplay. And if you're a bunch of theater kids like me, there might be tears, there might be yelling. And the hard part is that it's okay for them to fail. And they might make the wrong choice. They might lose a duel. They might betray their morals. You don't want to punish them. You're just trying to challenge them. So if, let's say, that character falls to their base desires and decides that, yeah, I am going to kill this person in front of the entire royal court, and now the entire party is being chased, that was the choice that the character made, right? So challenge them, but don't make those choices for them. And then give them a little bit of grace. I would say give them a head start when they're running away, or set a fair fight and, set sort of challenges, like maybe the entire army doesn't show up until 10 rounds from now, and just let them know you have 1 minute to escape this area or you're going to get caught. And then they can figure it out from there. But the idea is to just challenge them and not necessarily have everything set in stone for them. So just find a way to challenge them emotionally or socially or narratively. And it can be early in the campaign. You can come back to it 10 levels later and then have it be a complete story arc or a chapter to the campaign that they can end, that they failed at the beginning and succeeded at the end. I would just be very careful, because that sometimes, especially if you're the first character to do a complete arc with, well, then that player might feel forgotten, a year later when their arc was already done. So I like to extend them out, but giving them a moment of failure is one of the best things that you can do, because it not only brings the party together, creates some great role-playing moments, but it also makes that arc later on way more compelling. Now, number 6, then you essentially just flip-flop that and give them a chance to shine. So now that they've had a moment where they have come down, they've been humbled, they realize they're not as strong as they thought they were, then you can give them an encounter that focuses on what they're good at. So if they're a barbarian, they're super strong, give them a moment in a fighting pit or in some sort of like Olympic Games where their strength is their biggest asset. Like, give them something that they know they're going to be good at, give them that moment to shine, and then give them an item or get them some training or push them through some tough moments role-playing wise, help them shine with a second wind, and then give them like a reward at the end of that. Like, just to kind of show them that, like, no, everything you went through was worth it. You're not bad. You just weren't strong enough, but now you can be. There is still room for growth. And then giving them a reward at the end of that, like a special weapon or prize, just something. It just makes it all worth it, and it's super satisfying for the players. They get to feel like they did something good, and now they have something to look ahead for instead of feeling like they failed and they're never going to be able to defeat that person, right? Again, just role playing, because we all know that they're going to level up and eventually be stronger. But give them a chance to lead the party for a little bit. Let them save the NPC that they once failed. Let them reforge that weapon, let them unlock a subclass and find a relic or take revenge with, mercy for just a little bit. It's their second win. It's their spotlight. It's their, I'm not that same person anymore moment. And just give them that. And it'll be one of the most satisfying things you ever give them, I promise. And then finally at number 7, let them reflect in character on that moment. And what I mean by that is to give them time to roleplay at the table. Once the dust settles, give them that space. Let them talk to each other. Let them talk in character, talk to the party, talk to themselves, to the enemy that they defeated. Ask them how they're feeling. The party might want to celebrate with drinks or going shopping, or sometimes they might need a moment because that character may have just done something absolutely crazy and may never be the same again, right? Think about Vax. And the chances are, at the end of the day, that player, that character might surprise you. They'll always say things that are borderline poetic. Some of the most beautiful moments in my games have been through these character arcs where they go through something, and it's just the truth. I do this for every player, obviously not all at once, not in the same session, but piece by piece, I like to weave these threads into the tapestry of the story. I like to end every single one of these character arcs with a choice that matters, that then moves the story forward. So your campaign can then become this living thing that's full of personal journeys, not just one town after another, one treasure after another, but you have these like moments that you can almost look back on the dotted lines of the map, and you can see the moments that mattered to each character that are far beyond combat and far beyond treasure. And all you need is a basic sort of little map for these little tiny plot points that you can pick and choose from by just understanding what your character wants, what their conflict is, what they're bad at, and designing something that goes in tandem with those moments for them. And that's pretty much it. Now, let me know in the comments down below what you think helps make a better character arc for your players. I'm sure I've missed something. I want to read all about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you were paying attention in today's video, leave a timestamp in the comments down below with where you saw our little buddy Tobias, and you just might get shouted out in the next video. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Forge on, my friends. And remember, a locked door is just a suggestion if you're strong enough.